All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you for an ML Sports Take. It's all brought to you by our great friends at Empower Federal Credit Union and Bryant and Stratton College. Visit them online at bryantstratton.edu. And for every and in life, Bryant and Stratton College, they're the official college, of course, of the ML Sports Platter. And also a big tip of the cap to Rosie's Corner. If you're in and around Central New York, make sure you support your local businesses. They do have the curbside takeout, pizza, wings, pasta, hot and cold subs, along with themed food days during the week as well, including Turkey Slop Tuesday, Chicken and Biscuit Wednesday, and your Fish Friday. I'm outside for a walk with my dog, so I decided that I'd try to concentrate on pretty much everything here in a secluded area and, talk a little NFL draft in terms of these quarterbacks. Now, again, I think this draft is going to be assessing a little bit more for 2021 because I'm getting the feeling that sports are not coming back in 2020. That's not a negative comment. That's a realistic comment. But let's go through some of the quarterbacks, in this NFL draft. And I think when you look at teams that need quarterbacks, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's the Patriots, possibly the Raiders. I wouldn't trust Marcus Mariota if my life depended on it. Obviously, the Dolphins are in much need of, in a much needed situation, for a quarterback. As well, and they've got a slew of picks, obviously, in this NFL draft in the first round. So, no matter what you're looking at here, there's a lot of different guys, a lot of different options. I'm not really, and again, this is a whole entire crapshoot, as we know, with the NFL draft, particularly with quarterbacks. If there's not a guy, who's coming out who's a Dan Marino type or a John Elway type or, Peyton Manning in his prime type or in his college prime or an Andrew Luck, those kind of players, those are no-brainers, of course. But there are a lot of solid options. And, look, when you need a quarterback, you got to keep throwing daggers and keep throwing darts until you hit the bullseye with somebody. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa and Tua Ravioli. I mean, you hear a million different pronunciations of this guy's name. Right now, he looks good. He's been putting all that tape out. I know it's hard to kind of assess anything with, no personal workouts and this and that, but he does look like a quarterback. He's moving laterally. He's a big-time lefty arm. He can throw it long, throw it short. Wicked athlete as well. A lot of people are comparing him to Russell Wilson or Drew Brees just from the left side. But as far as Tua goes, actually, I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. He could prove me wrong. He could be an unbelievable all-pro quarterback. Guy could go to the Hall of Fame for all I know. But what I know right now is even though he looks good on tape, a guy who has a hip injury as a quarterback, you don't really see that much. You've got the shoulder problems, you've got the ankle problems, you have the hamstring problems. This guy's come back from a lot, and really he didn't start a ton of games, at Alabama either, and I think that could be maybe a concern as well from an experience standpoint. He did play, obviously, for Nick Saban. He's been playing championship football in the SEC for a long time, but as far as his injuries goes, I would not touch Tua at all. If I'm an NFL GM, I would go maybe a different route. You have Justin Herbert, of course, coming out from Oregon. He might have the best upside in terms of just pure arm talent. Obviously Joe Burrow is the head of the class because of the ridiculous season that he had last year for LSU, winning the national championship, setting all the records, running the Joe Brady offense that literally nobody could stop in college football. And what a year it was for Ed Orgeron's LSU Tigers. Cincinnati, it appears right now, is going to take them. If I'm Miami, boy, I mean, they don't have a lot of offensive players to put around Joe Burrow. But if I'm Miami, man, and I'm going for, look, they haven't had a quarterback since Dan Marino. I'm trading like 4 or 5 of my picks, and I'm just going to jump up and get this guy. They need a quarterback, and I think you're probably better off putting all your eggs in the Joe Burrow basket than any other quarterback. So those are a few that you can look at. Obviously, a lot of people have been talking lately about Jordan Love. Here's a guy who's another terrific athlete, really good arm strength, IQ through the roof. I think he's going to get picked, higher than people think, actually, at this particular point. And he's a guy whose stock is rising as well. And there's always one quarterback who, a lot of people really love, pun intended, a couple months before the draft. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks right before the draft, you hear the name 20 times more on the shows. You hear the Todd McShays, the Mel Kiper Jr.'s, and all these different guys talking at length about players like Jordan Love. And a lot of people do like, Love as well. What are the Patriots going to do? I mean, the Patriots are, in the 20s. Are they going to somehow trade up to get a quarterback? I do think that they're going to take a quarterback. They might just take the leftover and take a chance there and let that individual battle with Jacob Stidham. And I'll tell you a guy who might fall right to him. And if he falls to them, I'm taking him in a heartbeat, and I think Bill Belichick could really, really work with something here, and that's Jake Fromm out of Georgia. I think Jake Fromm is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL draft. Now, a few years from now, you might be calling me and going, you dumbass. Or you could be saying, hey, man, you're a really smart guy. Again, NFL draft, total crapshoot, just like a lot of drafts are. But the thing I like about Jake Fromm, there's a few things, actually. Number one, battled through a lot of adversity during his career. He was doubted. He was told he wasn't as good as any of the SEC counterparts that he faced at all the other power schools like LSU and Alabama, etc. the last couple of years, whether it's been Tua or it's been Jalen Hurts, who's going to be in the draft as well, by the way, out of Oklahoma. Joe Burrow, Tua, Jalen Hurts, every other quarterback you could possibly imagine he's been compared to, and everybody says he's just not good enough. So he's battled a lot of adversity. He's battled the naysayers. He's played in a winning program. Georgia, I know that they haven't won a national championship per se, but how many teams really have won a national championship in the SEC outside of Alabama, for crying out loud? LSU did this year, but for the most part, Alabama's been the king. Look at how good Auburn has been the last few years. They haven't touched a championship because Alabama in the Nick Saban era, they've dominated the conference. You look at LSU finally breaking through this year, but it's very, very simple. I mean, Nick Saban assistants go and they coach somewhere else, and then they can't beat Saban. So it's not, Georgia not winning is not a Georgia problem. It's been an Alabama problem. They've been dominating like crazy. I mean, that's like trying to blame the Steelers and the Colts for not winning as many titles the last 20 years. Well, you've had Brady and Belichick in New England to deal with. Andy Murray not winning as many Grand Slams in tennis. Well, you've had Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. So I think that there's going to be a case in point here for, the New England Patriots to try and take a quarterback. And if Jake Fromm comes to them, I think it's a no-brainer. I think they should take him. Another thing I love about Fromm is he's got size. I mean, this guy's got a live arm and the IQ and all the rest, but he's got a big body with those big shoulders. I think he can throw, flat out over the middle. He's been running, pro-style offense his entire time at Georgia as well. Even though that they've relied on a lot of, running backs through the time at Georgia, Fromm has worked a lot of angles. He can throw it long. He can throw it short. He can really, diagram patterns. He's a terrific leader. His win percentage is great. And he's played championship football, obviously, at Georgia as well. So I think Jake Fromm's actually the most underrated quarterback in this draft. But, if I had to rank these guys, I'd probably go Burrow 1, Jordan Love 2, just because why not get on the Jordan Love train? I'd probably go Fromm 3, and then Herbert 4. You have to wonder, and then maybe even like a 2 or 5, I guess. But I would stay away from him for sure. The one thing you have to wonder about Justin Herbert too is, he's played out in the Pac-12, and outside of the non-conference games, the Pac-12, they run that constant spread, and it's just flinging it, and for 50, 60 times. I mean, is that really sufficient in the NFL? Sure, they're throwing it a lot too, but the defense has been so weak as well against Oregon that you wonder, how confident can you be in Justin Herbert, running an offense at the NFL level instantly? Time will tell, but that's obviously a knock on Pac-12 quarterbacks in the past as well. And if you look at guys who have come from that conference, they haven't had a ton of success compared to some other conferences. You don't think of Stanford, other than Andrew Luck, but, Stanford and Washington State and Arizona State. You don't think of those schools as producing unbelievable quarterbacks. You think of the ACC, you think of the Big Ten, you think of the SEC, you think of some of these other places, you think of some actually diamond in the rough schools as well. So it'll be interesting, the NFL draft, no question. Next week is draft week, and the quarterback position will be assessed as high as it's ever been, because that's frankly where we are. It's a quarterback league. Mike Lindsley with you, 9 minutes here on IGTV, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. And we're brought to you by our good friends at Empower Federal Credit Union, Ken's Auto Detailing, the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group, and Sit Means Sit Syracuse. Make sure you go log on to syracuse.sitmeansit.com. Greater Central New York area, take your dog for the best training. And as I always tell you, when they come back, enjoy the games.